just when you thought I'd never answer your questions, I start answering viewer questions again. So the questions people put under my videos and the comments people put under my videos, I will occasionally go through and answer them through typing. Sometimes I answer them through video like this. I usually read most or all of them, but I can't answer all of them. If the questions seems kind of universal, that will be applicable to a lot of people, I will read that sometimes. If it's a nuanced question that's seems like the answer will be a good teaching, I'll answer that. Or if it's something really uncommon that I think is relevant but just doesn't come up very often, I may answer that question. So yeah, feel free to put the questions or comments under my videos. I do read them. I get a lot out of them. I answer them when I can, and I answer them on video when I can. So I do appreciate you all. Thank you so much. Let's see here. We'll start with, this one's from a person named Harken Spira. Sorry, hard name to pronounce. I don't know if it's all one name or two names put together. It says, Angelo, I have a question. I think in one of your videos you said beliefs like I have to quit smoking to wake up are conceptual. But sometimes I feel like maybe I have to feel and sustain the restlessness of withdrawal to get to the root of addiction. Because in the end, sensation and the inability to fully be with it is what drives this whole addiction and thought thing as well, isn't it? And if I can't be with the sensation of withdrawal and light up the next cigarette, then I'm basically not fully experiencing the discomfort that would be here without the cigarette. This gets then as it gets too heady, I remind myself that this is all part of the experience now, right? It's all clear, undeniable, obvious. So I try just be with the entirety of this struggle, the visual experience, the sensations, the thoughts. I try to just be with the fabric of it all as the fabric. I don't know what I can want beyond that, but it feels so unsatisfying. Do you have any recommendations or pointers on how to deal with this? It sounds like you're kind of conflating two different pointers together. One is just experiencing sensations, experiencing what's appearing in this moment and feeling it. And the other is when I say things like, if you have a belief that says, I have to quit smoking to wake up, that is nothing but a belief. It's not true. I mean, I'm saying it's not true at all. If you want to focus on waking up, put everything else aside, you can. That's the point. Your mind will tell you, oh, well, once I learn to meditate better, once I can reach a certain state of samadhi, once I can enter a certain jhana, once I whatever, right? Then I'll wake up. And we often don't see these beliefs. They're kind of hidden. So this is what I'm pointing to when I say that you don't have to have any perfect conditions to wake up. You just have to be willing, ready, and oriented toward awakening, and it's going to happen. I can't tell you when it's going to happen. It might not happen in one day, might not happen in 1 week, but it's going to happen. And you stay oriented to it. And you don't stay oriented to thoughts. And you don't grab onto those thoughts and say, I can't do it. I don't know. I'm lost. I'm confused. I don't know who I am. This isn't working. I got to quit smoking. Like, thoughts. Yeah, I know your mind makes a lot of thoughts. I know that. Everybody's mind makes thoughts. That's how this goes. And when I tell you orient to awakening, I'm telling you what you can orient to right now is none of those thoughts. And then you'll say, well, what is it? But when you ask me what it is, if it's not a thought and you ask me what it is, you're asking for another thought. I'm not going to give it to you. But I promise you it's there. I promise you it is there. In fact, it's more there than any of your thoughts are. It's more real for you right now than any of your thoughts are. By far. What is it? Don't let go of that. Don't let go of the orientation to that. Don't let go of the insistence that can be penetrated, can be fully realized, awoken to. Of course it can. So this is what I'm pointing to. So I just want to be really clear about this. And then the rest of what you're talking about here is kind of a mixed bag, because this is why I say a lot of times it's important to know what you want and what you're after. But this question and comment is kind of a mixed bag in your intention. At first, you refer to something that I usually talk about when I talk about waking up. And then the later parts kind of sounds like you're trying to fight an addiction. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not telling you how to fight an addiction. That's not what I talk about here. And that's important to understand. Not saying you shouldn't be fighting an addiction or working on an addiction or whatever. If that's what you want to do it. But I'm talking about awakening. So it's really important to be clear on your intention, especially when it comes to awakening, because we could say this is a subtle thing, but it's more because if you don't have the proper intention and orientation, thoughts will beat you up. They'll drag you around all over the place. They'll tell you things like, well, you gotta quit smoking, but you're not clear enough to quit smoking because you can't sit long enough and it's not comfortable. And should it be comfortable? When is it going to be comfortable? And right, thoughts. If you want to wake up, see that every single one of those is a thought. Most importantly, see that the next one is a thought. What is the next thought? What is the thought that's there right now? What is it? Don't grab another thought. Stay there. Stay there. Okay? Moving on. This is Tim. Even in deep samadhi, there was a subtle pull to doing, which ultimately pushed the body back into activity. Okay, this is really important. Totally links to the first one. If you feel that there's a subtle pull to doing and you're in this kind of samadhi or in this contemplative space or meditative space, it's critical to see that there's nothing, the pulling is a concept. I promise you it is. And if you're in that space and you get into those subtler thoughts that are almost preconceptual, like pulling out, oh, I got pulled out, right? Push back into activity. Notice those thoughts. Notice the thoughts. And see this samadhi is undisturbed. Consciousness is undisturbed. Those thoughts can appear and disappear within consciousness. So don't get pulled by the thoughts. Now, with that said, if the body gets up and moves, then that's what happened. There's no thought that did that. So when the body sits back down and the thought returns and says, oh, well, I can only get so far in samadhi because then the thought's going to come and I'm going to move. That's a thought. You see? See how this works? It's very, very simple. Happy travels. This is for Sylvan Alma. Sylvan Alma? Maybe. On the one hand, there's nothing to wait for, with which I resonate. On the other hand, there are these events that, for example, appear in the documentary Awake. I go back and forth between these two positions, mostly staying in the waiting for the event one. Could you please clarify this? Oh my goodness. I love when all these questions just line up so perfectly. Waiting? You sound like you're familiar with it, right? You're familiar with the idea, the experience of waiting. Guess what? Waiting is a thought. Waiting is a thought. You're not waiting right now. You're not doing anything. There's not even a you not waiting, but the point is, waiting is a thought. There are sensations. There is sound. There's consciousness. That consciousness can take the form of thoughts or not. That's all that's happening. So it's neither about waiting or stopping waiting, because if you try to tell yourself to stop waiting, you're still believing in waiting. You're just going to give yourself another thought. You're going to grab another thought. This isn't about waiting or not waiting, because both of those are thoughts. So where can you go with, if you're not waiting and you're not waiting, where are you? If I pull the waiting rug out from under you, where do you go? Who are you if you're not waiting anymore? By the way, you can't blame waiting on awakening because it has nothing to do with it. But more importantly, the waiting isn't something that has to do with awakening or this process. It's already been there. The illusion of waiting has been around a long time. You're never waiting for anything. Waiting is a concept. It's an illusion. It's a dream. It's something we tell ourselves to believe in the timeline. But the timeline doesn't exist in and of itself. It's a series of thoughts. Or it's a recurrent thought. Or it's a thinking texture. There's no waiting. So if you're not waiting, and you don't have to stop waiting, what are you going to do? Right now. Who are you? Without waiting, who are you? Without waiting, what are you? There's something conscious there, isn't there? Is there an experience? Do you hear this? Are you receiving what I'm saying? Is it appearing somewhere in consciousness or in your experience or in awareness? So what is that? Who are you? Without labels. And I don't want to label like consciousness, awareness, hearing. What are you? What is this? Stay still. Stay still. Don't get tangled in thoughts. They point to places that don't exist. Just don't move. Okay, scrolling on. This is Guy Colorado. I like that name. Thinking of the healing question. How much of my suffering is generated by the stories I've crafted and believed to be true? All of it. But you didn't do anything. You're not a guilty party. But all of the suffering has to do with, well, really memory. Yeah. But it's not just the fact that there are stories there. They're not just not just the fact that they're there frequently and that they're thought-based. It's a sense of having a relationship with thought. I say a sense of having a relationship because at first you see that it's like, oh, I'm not those thoughts. Then you see something even deeper, that like even the sense of I that does or does not react to a thought is also not there. There's just reacting or not reacting. There's just an urge going nowhere. It's a sensation. Everything's a sensation. And then therein, one can find no suffering. First you find no sufferer, then you find no suffering. In that order. Cool. There's a little more to the question, but I think that's the gist of the question. It says, full disclosure, I'm not always sure what people mean when they use the word bypassing. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. They did ask, realizing that and letting the narrative unwind doesn't seem like bypassing. No. No, bypassing is kind of conceptualizing spirituality and then using it as a way to avoid emotion or shadow material. That's probably one of the simplest ways I can put it. But that's not what we're talking about. Because if you recognize the misery and suffering that comes with being dissociated into thought, narrative, stories, past, future, all of it, right? If you realize how much misery that causes and stop doing it, then what inevitably happens is repressed material comes up. When you stop using your mind to distract, to run away, to dissociate, then you're going to start to feel what you've been trying to dissociate from. And then you feel a kind of deeper layer of resistance, and that can be intense. So be aware of that. Actually, this is the opposite of bypassing. To see things clearly and disidentify from thoughts, disidentify from the stories, will actually bring the shadow material up. This is my book where I said when the next shoe drops, when the second shoe drops, when the other shoe drops, I think. I have a section titled that. So I describe that when you have an opening, when you have clarity, it almost is always followed by some kind of shadow material coming into consciousness, and that's okay. That's normal. So yeah, it's only bypassing if when that shadow material comes, you pretend it's not there. You lie to yourself and lie to others, pretend it's not there, pretend you're totally enlightened, tell everyone you're totally enlightened, or something like that. I mean, there's a lot of ways to bypass, but it's something more like not willing to feel the discomfort instead of just realizing this shadow material is coming and I have to experience it, and I will experience it, and I'll experience it with curiosity, with patience, and with understanding and trust that it is lawful. It is the way this goes. So, good question. This one is from Revelations beyond belief. When you are aware of the thought, it is already in the past. Yeah. There is no past really, but if we're going to talk in terms of the timeline, in terms of the relative, as soon as there's a thought, it's a reflection of something that's just gone, right? Because what it's trying to reflect is changing constantly. It's always in flux. This is from Ms. Tai Hai. Ms. Tai Hai. Or Thigh High. Looking for the answer is the problem. End of story. I like it. This one's from Complete Perfection Already. Okay. Procrastination is not a common issue. Procrastination does not exist. Procrastination has never happened in this universe. The imagined individual imagines imperfection. It's all good until you use it to bypass. Someone asked about bypassing. These questions line up so beautifully. That's the kind of thing when I'm talking about like procrastination, I talk about something in the relative world. You have to understand that you can't deny the relative. If you do deny the relative, you start sounding like a maniac. You may do well on YouTube, but you start telling your partner that that there's no one to procrastinate, or there's no one who didn't pick up the dirty laundry, or whatever, right? There's no one that cheated on her or him. You can't just use this stuff to pretend things don't happen in the relative world, right? So what I would say to you is ask the person who wrote this comment, ask your family and friends if they think you procrastinate. See what they say. They probably won't say there's no procrastination in the universe. They'll give you a relative answer. And sometimes that relative answer is really good feedback. Maybe you don't procrastinate. I don't know. But I'm sure you have some challenges. So you don't want to avoid the relative challenges you have in your life by using things like this. It's very important not to do that. Very important. Thanks for a comment. Let's see. This one's from Begone. I don't know much about awakening. So how can someone explain to me how, if the body and the past aren't real, how repressed emotions in the body from the past and trauma are real? There are no repressed emotions or trauma from the past. They're only going to appear right here. That's all you need to know. Like I was saying before, when you clear this space of the illusion of past and future, when you clear this space of the illusion of doing and storylines and narratives and all the things, it comes right here. It comes right into consciousness right now. This is where you're going to do your shadow work. This is where you're going to feel repressed emotion not being repressed. When you feel it, it's not repressed. It's here. Yeah. When you feel it and you don't totally dissociate to avoid it, it's here. So this is good, right? So this is where repressed emotions turn into not repressed emotions. This is where shadow material turns into light material. Does that feel good? No, not always. Especially at first. It can be surprising how uncomfortable it is. But you don't have to figure out whether it's past, present, future, blah, 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 blah. It's here. It's here, right? That's the answer. It's so simple. It's so beautiful. And if it's not here, it's not here. Feel it. Feel what's here. See, feel, hear. Consciousness. You have 6 sense gates to choose from to make a choiceless choice. And they're all here. It's the nexus of all those streams of experience. Cool. Good question. Good comment. This is from who? I wanted to ask, from someone who has been able to drop into conceptual awareness and feel the freedom of sensations, can it be a way to bypass things? Different kind of question. So this question is asking about bypassing as well, but you guys couldn't have made these questions anymore. It's like a textbook or something, Conceptual awareness, drop into non-conceptual awareness, feel the freedom of sensations. Okay, let's just talk about, I'll just call it unbound consciousness, non-conceptual awareness, or awareness consciousness that is unbound by concepts, thoughts, beliefs, and past, present, future. Just pure experience of being that doesn't have a direction, doesn't have a center or a periphery, accommodates all movements of thought, accommodates all ideas of beings and people and non-people and awakening and non-awakening and all that, all those thoughts, all those beliefs and concepts. It just accommodates all of it because it's just this clear expanse of consciousness. Yeah. So the question, I'm going to rephrase the question from there. Is that bypassing? No. Nope. Sit in that experience of unbound consciousness all you want. Cultivate it. You may need to do other work. There may be some shadow work outside of this that isn't fully addressed by consciousness, but consciousness as a practice, abiding in, call it the I am sense, call it the experience of infinite being, I call it unbound consciousness, unbound to thought. Consciousness unbound to thought, unbound in the confirmation of the thinker and the thought, pure experience of consciousness. That's my way of describing it. But resting in that is a very good practice, and I recommend everybody do it. Unless you really don't want to. All right. This one's from Beth. Who am I has never worked for me. It goes straight into cerebral thinking immediately. That's common. It's very common for people. Not for everyone, but it's common for a lot of people. But when I just let go completely, I rest in an amazing no-self space that is so peaceful, full, empty, and everything, and nothing all at once. I can't even describe it. I love it. Beautiful. Do it. Sounds like you're describing unbound consciousness. Perfect. Now, like I said, everybody has a different way of experiencing it. Beth is saying in a very accurate way, in my experience, that you can't describe it. Of course not. But you can love it. So Beth, go for it. You're doing awesome. This is from Metal Birder. Someone said to me, seeing doesn't comment on anything. Oh, I like that. That's right. Seeing has no opinion. Beautiful. It means pure seeing, sense gate, right? The seen. Mm-hmm. Cool. This is from Brad Stewart. I was just watching a Papaji video today that lined up perfectly with the beginning of your video. What struck me in this was that he said the mind is desire, desire is the mind. That's pretty good because the seeker can't do anything but seek, right? The desiring mind is always looking for an object of desire. It's like the hammer is always looking for a nail. That's kind of how it is, right? The ego structure, born of the illusion that it's separate from everything, is always trying to seek the whole, but it can't find it, of course. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Renko says, an important pointing for sure. This is in reference to a video called Peace is Intrinsic to Non-Dual Experience. A while back, you said to me in a video answering comments and questions where I asked about glitches and short-circuiting in the relative world, it's unbinding itself, which is a gift because you can no longer have to tell yourself you need to do anything. That was my answer, I guess. Even still, it took a bit of time for that to sink in. The seeking habit is pretty deeply ingrained. True, habits can be kind of strong. The quote again is, it's unbinding itself, which is a gift because you no longer have to tell yourself you need to do anything. Yeah, these surrender type statements, these turning words of surrender and of unbinding, and again, seeing that you don't have to figure out unbinding. It's already happening. Mm-hmm. It's like tuning into its frequency more. That's why it can take a little time, a little patience, which is good. Mm-hmm. This one's from Swarananda. Putting the squeeze on my escapism. Love this. My video is called Who's Doing the Doing? Exploring the Space Beyond Action. All right. I like your comments, Swarananda. This one's from Minaos. I'm finding after the first shift being drawn to certain traditions and schools, enjoying their teachings, bhajans, stories, with no attachment nor belonging. That's beautiful. Just a very light feeling that was not possible before, where I was very dogmatic that it has to be this teacher or this school, etc. That's a really, really mature approach, and this is what I find to be very natural for an awake person. And like I say, beware of teachers that really try to suck you into them, teachers that try to bind you into their school teaching, the way they do things, the way they say things, and even when it's gets a little culty, they'll shame you for going outside of their teaching and stuff. To me, that's just a sign of insecurity, like on the part of a teacher or an organization. But more importantly, it's just not true. You know what you need. I don't know what you need. You know what works for you. I don't know what works for you. You know how long to listen to that teaching or my video or the bhajan or go to that temple. You know, and you know when it's time to leave. That's your spiritual autonomy. That's your orientation to truth through your own insights, your own instincts. Don't ever let anybody talk you out of that, including me. I don't think I ever would try to talk anyone out of that, but just so you know, like, it's yours. It's your orientation, your truth. I can't wake up like you, and I can't wake up for you, but you can wake up in the most beautiful way, right? You already did wake up, but others, anyone else who's listening, that's one of the strangest and hardest things to actually explain about this whole process is when someone's approaching awakening, that first awakening, you have to kind of let go at some point of the stickiness. Of course, you've heard me say 1,000 times the attachment to thoughts and letting go of it. That's definitely part of it, but there's a stickiness in those attachment to thoughts about identity, that it's a relational identity. Meaning you're going to be sticky around thoughts that seem like they are imposed from the outside. Teachings, other teachers, comparing yourself to other people, these are sticky areas, but they're just thoughts. And you can let go of that, and you can move beyond that, or even move, let's say, before that, because there's a you in here that you were much more in contact with before you started getting bound into other people's ideas and teachings and ways of living and ways of thinking about yourself. And societal norms, which are even more binding in some sense. Before all of that happened, there was something in here that was just intimately you, your experience of you, your experience of just being. Yeah, that's already there. So it's before all those thoughts and bindings, but it's a little tricky to explain to people. Like, you will feel that shift. You will feel when you start orienting toward that, your own instinct, your own spiritual instinct, your intuition. And interestingly, and kind of sadly, occasionally I'll see someone in comments like really argue with me on this point. Like, not everyone can wake up. Not everyone can wake up. And I try to answer back. I try not to be too argumentative. I sometimes roughhouse a little bit with people, but it depends where they're coming from. But I'm trying to like push them a little bit to see like, who taught you to not trust your own instinct? It's fucking tragic. Who taught you not to trust your own spiritual instinct? Certainly don't go out and look for teachers that do it. You don't want to do more of it. You're already doing it. So stop. It's like, realize you don't need anything outside of yourself for any of this. You don't need anything outside of this momentary experience right now. This is where awakening happens right now. Right now. That's it. And you have no access point except for yourself, except for your own experience of being. That's a beautiful thing. But it's a little hard to explain when we're really bound into thoughts that are often based in identity and relational identity. So we're always thinking about external stuff, and our mind's just seemingly moving outward toward ideas and other people and memories. And it's just like, turn that around, come back in, let go of those thoughts. Drop into this. That's always here. And it's very familiar to you because it's you. Nice. All right. Thank you.